Thank you, Mayor. The City Council has reconvened from closed session with no reportable action taken.
Thank you. Okay, I will call this meeting to order. This is the regular City Council meeting. And City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
First, Mayor, if you don't mind, Sunburst Youth Academy Student Council Class of 23 is here. If you would like to join the council,
Please come and join us up here.
Come on up.
Yeah, it probably is. Probably.
1972. The whole movie's on it.
Right on down.
No, I don't take pens, Brett.
Let's sit down for now. Let's sit down. Welcome. How are you? Thank you for being here. School's over?
Almost there.
Close.
15 more days. Almost done, right?
15?
How are you?
We're sitting down, what are we doing? Fantastic. Oh, how are you? Okay.
Hi, pleasure.
How come you're last?
Roll call, City Council, Mayor Kusamoto,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Here.
Councilmember Turco,
Here.
Councilmember Gross,
Here.
Councilmember Hasselbrink. Here. Roll call for Sunburst Youth Academy Student Council Class of 23, Matthew Gainey, Alessandra Garcia,
That's me.
Nir Zavala, Kane Arvizo, Hannah, I'm sorry,
No Tarangelo?
perfect, Marsala Fabian,
Here.
Jose Linares, Oscar Orellana,
Oriana, here.
Jesus Perez,
Here, ma'am.
Luis Perez,
Here, ma'am.
Joel Riley,
Here.
Aiden Roscoe,
Here, ma'am.
Adriana De La Torre,
Here.
Jaden Collins, Stephanie Espinoza.
Here, ma'am.
Okay, so the next part, normally I'll ask the city manager to introduce his staff, but we did that a little bit earlier, so we're going to forego that for this meeting. And we're going to start with the pledge, and Cadet Matthew Gainey will lead us. And afterwards, the invocation will be done by Cadet Zavala. So would you remain standing after the pledge? Lead on, please. Speak up loud. Excuse me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cadet Zavala.
Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be present here today in this City Council meeting. We pray upon your presence to shed light on good decisions to be made by the City Council, to benefit and create a better environment for our Los Alamitos citizens. Thank you for letting us wake up with a fresh mind and ready to take on the day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. So, cadets, I think you're more than welcome to go return to your seats. I think we're going to have First Sergeant Gutierrez, if you may come forward and use the microphone. And tell us about Sunburst.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is First Sergeant Gutierrez. I work at JFTB here in Los Alamitos. First off, I want to thank the city of Los Alamitos. You are a tremendous support for our cadets and foster their growth. So thank you very much for everything that you do. It's a 5.5-month program that our cadets, I apologize, I'm so used to saying soldiers, our cadets go through to kind of rehabilitate themselves educationally, spiritually, mentally, physically, to get back into the high school system. They've come a long way. They've been here for 4 months already. 5 months now. They'll be graduating next month. And we just are very proud of them. 16, 17, 18-year-olds can attend the program. As I said before, it's a residential program, and then it's a post-residential program that we follow them for 1 year to watch how successful they become once they graduate from the program. going to college, joining the military, finishing high school, and doing all kinds of things to help their community once they get back. So like I said, we're very proud of them. We want more support always, so come out. If you have somebody that you recommend, please reach out to us at sunburstyouthacademy.com, and we're there. We're here to help all students, and hopefully that's it. Sorry. Oh, graduation is on June 8th. My apologies. My apologies, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. With that, if I can ask the council to join us up in front, we're going to have some presentations. So the first one up, the first item up is for the American Legion regarding Poppy Month. So if I can ask the American Legion post here to join us up here. You could all come up, please. You know what? I'm going to let Councilmember Gross, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, be happy to. I'll cover some of this for you, and it may be repeating, but please feel free to fill in when I give you the mic. Poppy Month, May of 2019. Whereas America is the land of freedom preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers, and whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle, and whereas a nation at peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in those wars. Whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary has pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flower, and asks that all citizens pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of the freedom by wearing the memorial poppy. And Mayor Kuzumoto and the City Council join with the American Legion in proclaiming May as Poppy Month. So we'd like to give this to you.
So we appreciate you being here. Did someone want to say something about the post and Poppy Month?
Thank you.
Oops. Thank you, everyone. This pretty much covers the meaning behind the poppy, why we promote this every May. May 24th is Poppy Day, so those of you that wish to show your support for our soldiers that have given the ultimate sacrifice, wear your poppy. I also want to let everybody know that this is kicking off the 100th birthday for the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. This is our centennial year. In November of 1919, both organizations were ratified. So this is a very important time for us, very special for us, and we appreciate you acknowledging our organization. Thank you.
Yeah, how about?
Oh, I am me. Take that one.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we're going to have a presentation to the Public Works staff in recognition of Public Works Week. And if the staff can come up here, and Les, if you would join us, please. Yeah, David, come on up here. Gary. So I'll just read the first one. Whereas National Public Works Week is a celebration of the tens of thousands of men and women who provide and maintain the infrastructure and services collectively known as public works. And in our city, of course, we really value that because we're tiny, but we get a lot of things done. I'm going to let Les say a few things, and I'm going to let Gary say a few things.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I want to make one note. All of our public works, I think all of them but one of our public works crew is here tonight. And of course, Dave Hunt, who is our city engineer by contract, and I think that's just a testament to the importance of public works. And a lot of people take what they do for granted, and that is taking care of our streets, taking care of our parks, and a multitude of tasks and responsibilities that they have, and keeping the quality of life of our community in that capacity at its premium. So they're very committed to our community, and it shows again by them being here tonight to represent the importance of this week.
Well, thank you very much.
Photo op. Okay, next we'll have a presentation to both the Orange County Fire Authority and Care Ambulance in recognition of Emergency Services Week. And Councilmember Hasselbrink sits on the OCFA board. I'm going to let her talk about this one.
Thanks. So Orange County Fire Authority is responsible for all the fire engines and paramedics in our county. And we have just an amazing group of people that respond to emergencies and save lives on a daily basis. And so it's with great honor that we reclaim this Emergency Medical Services Week for Orange County Fire Authority. And I'll let Councilman Sherko.
And we are also presenting this commendation for Emergency Medical Services Week Care Ambulance. Thank you. Yeah.
So, Chief, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Ladies and gentlemen, just wanted to say thank you for this honor. We, as the Orange County Fire Authority, have a long history with the city of Los Alamitos, and we look forward to continuing that for many years. Thank you.
And Kara, anybody want to say anything? Just talk. Thank you.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting us out. We appreciate it. We are thrilled to be here tonight. EMS Week is always something very traditional for EMS. I've been in EMS for 17 years, and every year we kind of look forward to it because it's kind of our own little personal holiday for the industry. And we thank you for inviting us out and celebrating with us. Each of the council people have a t-shirt on their desk, and we'd like to thank you guys for inviting us again.
Thank you. Okay, photo op then, please. Oh, could you?
For more and give you 3 seconds notice.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 2 more presentations. Okay, for Public Services, Manny, please come forward.
This feel like start.
Okay, cool.
You'll be happy to know I'm not here to talk about horses.
Yay.
Good evening, Mayor Kusamoto, Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, council members and staff. Thank you so much for having me here. Manuel Govea, aka Manny with Republic Services. Here to provide an annual update and review on everything that Republic has done in the past year in partnership with the great city of Los Alamitos. So thank you again for having me here this evening. We have a brief slide presentation to go through and some upcoming pieces of legislation to overview. And so if you ever have any questions, just stop me and let me know. I could have turned it on. All right, so Republic Services has been proudly serving the city of Los Alamitos for over 40 years now, and I have had the pleasure to be with the city for the last year and a half. So our current services include over 1,900 single-family residential homes, over 800 commercial containers that we service 6 days a week, 60-plus industrial halls, and an industrial hall is one of your very large roll-off containers. Provide solid waste, recycling, green waste, bulky item pickups for both multifamily, residential, and commercial customers, construction and demolition waste, organics, food waste, which has been our largest initiative of the past year, holiday tree removal, household hazardous waste that's picked up at the doorsteps of your residents, electronic waste, and street sweeping services. We're pleased to note that every single truck on the road in the city of Los Alamitos runs off of either liquid or compressed natural gas, thus limiting the maximum amount of CO2 emissions that are coming from our trucks within the city. We've got 3 residential trucks, all serviced on Thursdays, 2 commercial solid waste trucks 6 days a week, recycled commercial truck, a organics truck that goes twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and 2 roll-off trucks. So just to give you a little overview of what we collected during the past year, this past Christmas, we collected 8.71 tons of Christmas trees. 188 tons of bulky items were collected from the front areas of each residential home. We also collected over 11 tons of food waste as part of the new organics program. In terms of source-separated recycling, these are separate recycling carts. We picked up over 850 tons during 2018. Something I'm quite pleased with was robust community outreach efforts in the past year. This is a highlight of all of the events and educational activities that we participated in. This year I had the privilege of serving on the planning committee for Winter Wonderland, and even Chelsea had me up on a ladder decorating the city's Christmas tree, which was a ton of fun this year. We had a lot of success in partnership between ourselves and the city in getting direct mailers sent to all residents, reminding them of the schedule for holiday tree collection. And I've been very pleased in the limited amount of time that I've been here to have already been elected to the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, which I'm very active in. And all in all, these combined, Republic Services contributed over $60,000 this past year in sponsorships and in-kind support. Everyone loves photos. So a lot of the activities we participated in. As I mentioned a little bit ago, largest effort of 2018 was AB 1826 Organic Services. This could not have been made possible without the help of city staff and the city's consultant, Mike Ballier, and Republic all joining together to make sure that the city stayed in compliance with this new law, that we got program enrollment up and rolling as fast as possible, and participation on a positive note. That being said, we currently have 21 food waste customers that are actively enrolled in the program. We have 7 customers that are currently in the queue, and by the word pending, these are folks that have agreed to enroll in service, but we're just awaiting their customer service agreement form, which is required in order to get them a container and routed. Very pleased to say that over 70% of tiers 1 and 2 customers, which is the state's utmost priority, are enrolled in this program. Combined, we're now collecting over 16,000 pounds of food per month within the city of Los Alamitos. I am so very pleased to say that this year during the Cal Recycle annual review process and site visit, we were praised immensely for what we've accomplished in such a little amount of time here in the city. And that being said, I also want to give a very special appreciation to Mayor Kusamoto and Councilmember Hasselbrink for recommending that staff submit an award application to the California League of Cities for city business relations and success for this organics program, so thank you. These are the types of equipment that we provide Los Alamitos customers. They have a choice between a cart and also a 1 yard, 1.5 or 2 yard container that best meets their needs. We pick up Tuesdays and Fridays, and by keeping these limited, we can ensure that there's no overweight bins, because food waste is the most heaviest type of waste that we actually pick up. From Los Alamitos, we then either send it to one of our compost facilities in partnership with the Agriman, which is a soil amendment company, or we send it up to Puente Hills in partnership with the Los Angeles County Sanitation District, which then converts it into renewable energy and turns it into a smoothie. There's a byproduct that then gets processed further, but it's treated just the same as wastewater is. I would be remiss if we didn't touch upon the ever-evolving legislation that comes from the great state of California. One of them that is on the near term here is AB 1594, authored by Williams. Essentially, this eliminates the allowance of the green waste materials from going to the landfill and being considered part of the city's overall diversion. This past year, we picked up about 800 tons of green waste from Los Al, and so that's 800 tons that no longer get automatic diversion credit because it's been considered alternative daily cover at the landfill. So now we need to explore alternative mechanisms for processing the green waste. Luckily, Republic has a robust network of composting facilities, and that's where we most likely will be taking the green waste here on out. If you haven't heard about it yet, get ready and start reading on SB 1383 by former Senator Lara. This takes AB 1826 to the next level. And when I say that, the state will be requiring that there's a 50% reduction in organic waste from the 2014 levels. And that 50% reduction will need to be achieved by 2020. And then by 2025, it will need to be reduced by 75%. What this basically equates to is that all commercial and residential customers will need to be enrolled in an organics/food waste collection program. Luckily, the state gives us a multitude of options for handling that. It can be done either through a mixed waste processing. It could also be done with a fourth cart to all of our residential customers. This law is not fully determined in how the state's going to be rolling all of this out. They're still in a comment public review process. I know that the city has submitted public comment through the county and through the SWANA organization. Republic is very closely watching this on a statewide level because it's just that big of a piece of legislation. In addition to that, unlike 1826, it will put the responsibility on the backs of the city in terms of enforcement. And that itself begins, here's a timeline. And so by January 1st, 2022 is when regulations start are put into effect at the state level. By 2024 is when the city will be required to do its own enforcement and ensure that its customers are enrolled. 2025 is their timeline and goal for that 75% reduction in organics disposal. In addition to that, not only will we need to reduce the organics from going to the landfill by 75%, 20% at a minimum of this food that is currently going to the landfill, if it is edible, will need to be processed through either an organization like Food Finders or Waste Not OC and get that food delivered to those that are in need through food banks and other types of networks that are in existence.
So I have a question, Manny, if I may
Yes.
interrupt. So on that timeline here, so as we all know, right, the contract we currently, the franchise agreement we have expires in
2021.
So you or other bidders will have to deal with that.
Correct.
And we're not going to know how to price it out, right?
Correct.
And but we, the city, have to work in partnership with you for enforcement in terms of penalizing as well as fee collection. I mean, this is huge.
Yes, that is correct. And it's of concern to every city right now because people want to get ahead of it and have some type of mechanism in place that allows for these programs to be implemented. And I would recommend that during your next round of putting out bids is that there's some type of shell that allows for this program.
Okay. But on your end, that'll be just the collection and the the fee associated with that, right?
Correct.
But on our end, now we have to have additional code enforcement type staff.
Correct. Unless I would assume that you contract out with either your waste consultant or with your hauler to help with that enforcement mechanism.
So what are other cities going to be doing, or the county for that matter? I mean, right here is unincorporated part of the county, right? That they're going to have to deal with the same thing. But how is the county? Any idea how they might be handling it?
It seems as if everyone's kind of scratching their heads right now because it's that large of a piece of law that nobody has, the capital, the resources to fund all the staff or even the mechanisms in place of what is somebody going to walk around every Thursday and lift a lid to make sure it's a non-contaminated bin. The law also requires that the lids of all the carts will have to have colored graphics of what can go in and what cannot go in. And so there is a considerable capital investment just to even have the equipment. Luckily, we have 1826, and so there is the infrastructure and how to process it and divert it from the landfill, but everything else is...
The anaerobic digesters are going to reach a capacity as well,
Correct.
right? So you're
Correct.
going to have to build more infrastructure for that.
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess back to us in terms of enforcement, what are the penalties, right? I mean, it's kind of that trade.
Yeah, we're tracking it. Mike Ballier, our consultant, we're working with him to track it. There's a couple of examples, client cities that he has now that are models or will be models for language to get into the future agreement that expires in 2021. But it's going to be onerous on everyone involved. So we wanted Manny to highlight that to the council and the public to start getting the information out there.
Did you have a question, Dean? Something? Okay. All right. Thank you, man. Please
It's
continue.
going to have to be tailored. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of
understand.
program, and so I think we're all just going to have to work together, and I know a lot of our cities are coming to us now.
But as a rate payer, right?
Yes.
I know there's a certain amount, but then as a city, then the enforcement part, the penalty, and all that, all that labor that's associated, that's an unknown to us as well.
Correct.
So wow.
To end on a positive note, again, I just want to say that myself and Republic Services is beyond proud to be a sustainability partner with the City of Los Alamitos. Having been here for a relatively short amount of time, I have been welcomed into this community with open arms and readiness to hit the ground running and help out however I can. And I just want to thank you all for welcoming me. And quick reminder that if anything arises, you have any concerns, questions, whatnot, please contact me directly or through the city staff. We work very well together, and I just want to express my appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you. So next on our presentation, we have item 5E, which is Ron Thompson from the Orange County Sanitation District regarding, I guess, a upcoming project. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nothing but good news tonight.
Thanks for being here.
It's waste night.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Or should I say, potential resource night. So thank you for the opportunity. I am Rob Thompson from the Orange County Sanitation District. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Sanitation District is a wastewater agency. So you heard the solid waste side. Now you're going to hear a little bit about the sewer side of the county infrastructure. So Sanitation District has been around since the 1950s. We have been installing infrastructure across the county, 396 miles of sewer lines that you see spread across the county. Some of those go through your beautiful city and have reached a point in their life where they need a little tune-up. So we have $11 billion in resources across the county. About a third of that is in our collection system, the pipes that bring the sewage to the sanitation district. And we have 2 treatment plants, one in Fountain Valley and one in Huntington Beach. Each of them are capable of taking about 320 million gallons a day of flow. Flow has been going down over time. We have more capacity during dry weather. Our normal dry weather is about 185 million gallons a day. So we get a flow of 185 million gallons and we turn that into 100 million gallons of drinking water. Soon it'll be 130 million gallons of drinking water. We have a partnership with Orange County Water District that converts that flow into a valuable resource, which we put into the aquifer and becomes drinking water again for the County of Orange. We also, in partnership with the solid waste haulers, do composting for food waste. We, along with the material that we bring in, the organics as we affectionately call them, make electricity from that resource, and 850 tons a day we compost or directly apply to farms as a nutrient resource. So our job is to take what is a 185 million gallon a day biohazard and turn it into resources for the agency, or for the county we serve. So that is Orange County Sanitation District. We are here tonight to talk about some of that infrastructure. The pipes that are in your city date back to the early 1960s, some late 1950s. They are nearing the end of some of the appurtenance's life in those pipes. Where the pipes butt together, especially, there are gaskets, and those gaskets are just about done. So we're getting some water intrusion into the pipes. Thankfully, it's into the pipes, not out of the pipes. Our job is to make sure that we are ready for wet weather, dry weather, and make sure all of that sewage gets to us without a spill ever. So we're going to talk about the work, especially in the next year. Our plan is to move forward with a construction project for the area in green, where we will, to the least extent possible, disrupt your traffic while we renew the infrastructure that's under those streets. If you notice in the upper corner, there's an orange line. That work starts first in Anaheim, Buena Park, and Cypress. It's a similar kind of job where we're going to line the pipes and upgrade the manholes. But come late summer of 2020, our intention is to begin the work in the green area on Catella and Los Al Seal Beach to renew those pipelines. You'll see some areas sort of in a teal color and purple. That's work that will begin in the future, probably 2023. We have been working very closely with OCTA on their project on the 405, knowing that traffic is really the issue that we'll be dealing with. For us, we're very good at the pipeline work, but the traffic management is as big a problem as any other that we'll face. So the area in green I'll talk a little bit more about. Our intention is to replace all the manholes, 65 of them in this area. The manholes are a little undersized and have been suffering corrosion over the last 60 years of their life. The pipelines themselves will be lined, and I'll walk through in a little more detail how we go about that process. We're going with this route. It's much less invasive than bringing out the excavators and physically digging up the linear alignments and trying to replace them lock, stock, and barrel. We have a couple of innovative techniques which allow us to go much more quickly and limit the impact. So again, these pipes have been in service for more than 50 years. They have been subjected to all the attacks from H2S and some of the other naturally occurring gases that happen in sewers. And our job is to make sure we upgrade them and provide 50 more years of service. So to get that done, what the project will look like is a series of bypass pumps. So we have to dry up the pipes to work in the pipes. Luckily, there are 2 pipes coming down the main thoroughfare, and we can do some diversions from pipe to pipe in dry weather. That'll help limit the amount of piping on the street. But you will see pumps in place and pipelines down either the gutter or sidewalk area. That allows us to dry up the pipe so that we can begin the process of replacing the manholes. So wherever there's a manhole, we'll dig a pit, take out the old manhole, you pour a base, and then build up the pieces and parts that make up a manhole. They'll all be lined so that we'll get even superior life to the 50 years we have had. We use a lot of technology to make sure the life is extended to the maximum extent possible. What we'll be doing is lining the pipes. This is called a cured in place pipe, CIP. They take what is basically a felt sock, put a resin in that sock, pull it into the sewer, hit it with compressed air, and it blows out just like a sausage all the way down the length of the sewer, pushes out against the walls, and then we fill it full of either steam or hot water, depending on the technology that's chosen, and you make a pipe inside of a pipe. So again, You start with a pit, you end with a pit, and you don't have to dig up everything in between. It goes much more quickly, and in the course of a weekend, you can do 600 feet of pipe at a time. So it's a great process. We've been using it around the county at the sanitation district for at least the last 10 years. We intend to finish our final design here in the coming months. We'll go through the bid and award process and begin the construction in the late summer of next year. It will be a 2.5-year overall duration. That's what we're planning for. There are opportunities for us to improve on that. One of the techniques that the sanitation district has really been employing over the last 5 years is we've gone across the county and updated our infrastructure, is to reach out very early. We don't want to wait for the project to start and then begin to engage the public about what we're about to do to them. We try and get with the public early on in the design process. We've been working with city staff for a period of years on this project. Our job is to understand how the community works, what the community wants, and work from there. One thing I do want to draw to your attention is the sanitation district has been sending surveys. 14,000 surveys were sent out to people in the surrounding areas. We're reaching out to not only residents but businesses, and we're asking some very important questions about what does the citizenry want the project to look like. By understanding their tolerance, whether they want us to go fast and be a little more intense, so working 24/7 but getting done a lot quicker, or do they want us to work nights? Do they only want us to work days? By understanding all of those requirements up front, we can get that in our contract and have a contractor on board to do the will of the people as well as get the work done quickly and efficiently. By getting that understanding done up front and having sort of a social contract with the citizens, it saves a whole lot of effort back when the impacts start and traffic gets gnarled. At least they knew it was coming, they've had a say, and their choice is rolled into what the contract has become. So we do that, reaching out through our website. We're doing it through the survey. We have all kinds of social media. I'll just go door knockers, Facebook, texts. We reach out in every electronic way possible to try and meet people in however they choose to communicate. Some it's face-to-face and some are more electronic. The groups that we're reaching out to are here listed. We spend a lot of time with schools. I know the person from the school district was here. We know that that's a big issue. We understand we're working around all of this, especially as we get into the top parts of your city and in Cypress. It's amazing to me, whoever laid out the city somehow thought that a sewer should go right past every school. It's an amazing opportunity for us to work through. A lot of summer work, I think, will be done. I do want to draw special attention to OCTA. A lot of work is going on with the 405. Part of the reason this project has been, in my mind, delayed to match what's going on with the 405 project is about the traffic problems. So we've been mindful. We're working with not only your city, but every city. When we do have meetings, all the city staffs come together. We're not trying to do a divide and conquer. We're trying to make sure everybody understands what all the parts and pieces are. In fact, we've broken the project up into its 4 pieces, strictly to distribute the load, if you will. So we don't want to close all the north-south roads at the same time. We want to do one at a time so people have options to get through. So a lot of thought, a lot of cooperation with the cities, and OCTA has gone on so far. What we will continue to do is reach out. We're starting in design. We will continue all the way through construction. We will have not only our own staff, but 24/7 access. We are going to put out the signboards so that people know it's not the city's fault, it's not somebody else's fault. OCSD is renewing this critical infrastructure. We're going to work, we're going to educate, we're going to meet everybody in the different venues and websites, emails, and face-to-face. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have about our project.
Hi, Rob. Some of you know I'm our representative on sanitation, and it is a tremendous organization. It is world-class in all senses of the word. #1 in water reclamation. People come from the deserts of Saudi Arabia, all over the world to see how it's done at the sanitation district. So congratulations on doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
They're also phenomenal planners. But as I've been warning you for 2 years, no amount of planning is going to allow you to dig up Catella and Los Alamitos and not impact traffic. However, this is your one chance to get a say in a government. Fill out your survey. It's going to be very important. You want them working 6 hours a day? You want them working 24 hours a day? Look where those maps are. They go right down the houses of the Highlands. This is the time to pay attention. By the time, which is human nature, by the time we wake up and they start drilling, it's too late. The contracts are done, the work is scheduled. Now is your chance to get a say. So get past the human nature part, and you have to act now if you're going to make an impact. Thank you.
So I do. Thank you for the presentation. So the surveys are very important for the local community here, right? The stakeholders are our constituents. But when you look at Catella, it is an arterial road. And how do you address that? I know working with the OCTA, but we'll be impacted just because we live here. But the people that are coming from wherever to get to the freeways and to get home, they're going to be impacting us as well as being impacted. So I know you plan, but I don't know how you reach out to those.
So the sanitation district has a lot of experience, and I have the scars and signs to show for it. We have we have renewed the infrastructure under Pacific Coast Highway in Newport Beach, which is an experience. We've renewed the infrastructure at State College Boulevard from Cal State Fullerton all the way down to Angel Stadium. This is something we're very good at with arterial roads. We tend to be in the big streets. So what you'll see happening is before the construction begins, you'll see the signboards start to come out, warning people months in advance, construction ahead, Orange County Sanitation District, our website. When you go to our website, you'll see a lot of those links to upcoming construction. So that's one technique. OCTA and Sanitation District are working together. As I say, we're not going to tear up Catella till the 405 segment between the 22 and 605 is set. One project that you'll see there on Westminster Boulevard is also going on. That will be done before the Catella construction.
But okay, so the signboards are going to be sort of reactionary. Please, the time to get the input is already passed, right? At that point, the signboards go up. So again, I don't know how you outreach, or is there alternative ways, or peak times? Do you do any kind of traffic studies?
Oh, there are significant traffic studies get done. Traffic engineers are employed from the beginning of design through. We're working with the city staff. Bottom line, though, is it boils down to, in my mind, what do the local citizenry want? What do the business owners want? That tends to drive what's going on. Okay. We'll never be allowed to shut down Catella. We'll get a lane, maybe 2 lanes, depending on where the lines are. That deal making gets done between the local cities and sanitation district, trying to do the best for traffic overall.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Some other questions? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Rob. Okay. You want to shut that off? So next on our agenda, we have oral communications. So at this time, an individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. And remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. And we have nothing to do with the race, the Los Alamitos racetrack, so it's not in our jurisdiction.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Shelley Henderson. I'm here as editor of Orange County Breeze and also as immediate past president of the Los Alamitos Chamber of Commerce. I want to take the opportunity to sing the praises of 4 exemplar local businesses, because a lot of people just don't appreciate how much they put into supporting our communities. I will start out with Republic Services, because I want to praise Manny Govia exorbitantly, extravagantly, and any other Lee that you can come up with, because since he became involved last year while I was chair of the Los Alamitos Chamber, he has done so much in support of the chamber and of the community that I cannot praise him enough. He has really been fantastic. Next, I want to bring up Southland Credit Union. They have a new logo, if you have noticed, and they have a new slogan for the summer. They're going to be called the official credit union of summer. They're going to have a shindig over in their Long Beach office with a fabulous ice cream truck. But what I want to bring to everybody's attention is just how many of the local events they support. Not just in Los Alamitos, not just in Cypress, not just in Seal Beach, but in all of their service area. They are a fabulous community partner. Then there's Forest Lawn. Now, most people don't like to think about Forest Lawn. We encourage you to go buy flowers at their flower shop. This Monday, Memorial Day, they will have a program there, as they do every year. It is a fabulous program. We had the folks in giving out poppies. There will be more folks over at Forest Lawn for an official event. Consider attending. Finally, the fourth local business that I wanted to shine a spotlight on is Wahoo Fish Tacos, which came in recently. They have partnered with OCTA to do Taco Tuesday to encourage people to use the bus. If you buy a taco, you get a free taco, right? That's all the Wahoos in the area, but I want to especially point out the Wahoos that went in on Los Alamitos Boulevard. I think their food's great. I think they're very supportive of the community also. And really, when you get a chance, tell your server, your representative, whatever, thank you for all of your community support. That's how they get their feedback. That's how they know that it's effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak for oral communications? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close oral communications. Next, we'll have council announcements, and how about we start with you, Dean?
Okay.
Good.
Since our last meeting, I've been very busy. With Mayor Kuzumoto, I attended the reception at the Center for Law and Military Policy in Costa Mesa. That was back on April 16th. Following day, I attended a pension reform workshop for the League of California Cities in Buena Park. Updates were provided on current legislation and ways to address this funding that's facing, the shortfall funding that's facing all cities. I attended an update on Fountain Valley's development at the Orange County Association of Realtors on how that city is addressing community concerns. And I've discussed that with city staff to try and reach out and get a little bit more information from them. I attended the installation of officers on April the 17th for the Association of California Cities of Orange County and Irvine. I participated in a meet and greet with our Assembly Member Tyler Deep on April the 18th. Attended the ribbon cutting for our new business called Miss Priss Cupcakes at 10670 Los Alamitos Boulevard. I conducted the Regional Military Affairs Committee monthly meeting at the Joint Forces Training Base on April the 23rd. I attended the Chamber's Happy Hour at the Courtyard by Marriott. With Parks and Recreation staff, I attended the Orange County Leadership Conference on Aging that was held in Garden Grove. Many resources and ideas were presented, and the city staff is working on finding new opportunities there. I attended an Orange County Taxpayers Lunch featuring Assembly Members Tom Daly, Sharon Quirk-Silva, and Petrie Norris on what's happening in Sacramento. That was an interesting lunch. Participated in the bi-monthly conference call with the California Governor's Military Council. On behalf of the Drug Enforcement Administration, I participated in the semi-annual drug take-back, which was held at McAuliffe Middle School. Then I joined the American Legion Post 716 to help barbecue hamburgers and hot dogs for military families at the Naval Weapons Station at CO Beach. I also attended a formal patching ceremony at Joint Forces Training Base for the Scout Explorer Infantry Post, which has now been adopted by the California National Guard Youth Program, and they have brand new patches showing the National Guard is on part of their uniform. From May 1 to 3, I was honored to represent the city at the Southern California Association of Governments annual conference in Indian Wells. I really appreciate that opportunity. I had a chance to attend a pre-conference function on traffic safety, and I'll be sharing a lot of the ideas and information I obtained with council members. On May 8th, I attended the 12th annual Home Aid Essentials Community Partner Luncheon at Precious Life Shelter. Later that day, I toured Plant 2 of the Orange County Sanitation District with our representative, Mayor Pro Tem Murphy. I serve as his alternate. On May 16th, I conducted the tour of the Joint Forces Training Base as part of the Regional Military Affairs quarterly public tour program for approximately 38 citizens. This past Saturday, I represented the Drug Enforcement Administration at the Cypress Police Open House, helping to inform and educate attendees on the dangers of opioids and teen drug abuse. Then Saturday night, I was honored to be invited and attend the formal dine out for the 79th Theater Sustainment Command from Joint Forces Training Base with Major General LeBeau. And that's it.
Thank you.
Sure. I did not have quite as an eventful month as Councilmember Gross, but I attended the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District monthly meeting where we approved a balanced budget for the coming year, and just reporting that the mosquito threat level is average so far this year, so hopefully it stays average. There's a lot of concern with all the rain that's took place this year and that's continuing, that we're going to have an elevated level, but so far it's average. I also attended the Budget Standing Committee meeting with Councilmember Hasselbrink, where we, along with great help from city staff, balanced the 2019-2020 budget. It's a tremendous achievement by staff primarily, but we did some as well. That was the most pressing primary concern budget-wise. And now we're going to be moving forward with evaluations along with our consultant, city staff, and the rest of the council to address our long-term sustainability. I know we all talk about it a lot, but really we're facing a long-term budget shortfall, and we're going to be having a series of public meetings to discuss with the public some of the options for addressing that. So hopefully folks will pay attention and participate as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
I attended Dr. Kropp's retirement reception at Old Ranch. She is now sent off with a bang in her retirement years, and we are in good hands with Dr. Andrew Pulver, who's already starting his program and is going to be just spectacular in that position. I attended the Dance West 30th anniversary. This is a traditional ballet studio that's upstairs from 7-Eleven in the Catella Belly Shopping Center. How in the world they survived being upstairs from 7-Eleven for 30 years, but they are absolutely thriving. And hundreds of dancers have gone through that studio, and they're just, it was really nice to be there. Saturday night, I went to the Summer Harvest fundraiser. Summer Harvest is a local organization started by Sean and Amy Payne with Los Alamitos Unified School District, Cypress School District, and also Fountain Valley School District. What they do is they provide healthy groceries during the summer when these kids can't get free and reduced lunch during the school year. And shockingly, Los Alamitos Unified School District has 16% of their students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So I always say that we are a perceived affluent community, but there are families out there struggling just to make sure that they have healthy meals on the table for their kids. For Orange County Fire Authority, as chair of Budget and Finance Committee, we approved our operating budget. It's going to go to the full board approval this coming Thursday. It's a $482 million operating budget. 65% of the revenues come from property taxes. 91% of the expenses is salaries and benefits, so this is definitely a people-oriented agency. Currently, our pension liability paydown is at 78.6%. With the, we are on track to be paid down to 85% by December of 2020. Since the adoption of the pension accelerated payments in 2014, we've realized $18 million in interest savings just by doing the snowball plan that we've put into effect. Some of the CIP projects that we'll be doing this coming year is replacement of 3 aging stations in Mission Viejo, Yorba Linda, and Laguna Woods. We're going to be expanding our training facility down in Irvine to accommodate more academies. We unfroze a bunch of positions due to our financial standing, and we can't get enough firefighters trained in the 12-week academies, so we're trying to expand so we can train more of them. We're retrofitting all station bathrooms to be gender neutral to comply with the state law, and then we're replacing 26 emergency vehicles. We have started contract negotiations with Local 3631, which is our firefighters, for their contract that's expiring in June of 2020. And we also approved to open a 114 trust. It looks like we're going to be going towards the moderate investment, which is a 6% return, which if you're paying attention to OSERS or CalPERS, they're in the negative numbers, so 6% is time for celebration. So I know we're talking about it here at the city, and it's going to be a nice model to follow as more cities and more public agencies are doing this. With sad news, OCFA Director and Mayor San Clemente, Steve Swartz, passed away suddenly on Thursday when he was vacationing in Palm Springs. His service will be tomorrow down in San Clemente. And then on May 29th, we've got a really cool thing. We were able to connect Los Alamitos Youth Baseball and the 11th MP soldiers that are deploying to Afghanistan for a year. And they are going to be coming over to the baseball fields, the Sunburst Academy as we call it, or Sunburst Fields as we call it. And they're going to be doing a barbecue and softball games and just kind of a celebration before we send them off for the year. And then on June 8th, I'll be traveling to Washington, D.C. to attend the Association of Defense Communities. I've got a number of meetings with congressmen to be able to shine a light on our base and start learning about more community engagements and partnerships and funding that we might not know of. So I'm looking forward to that. That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem? I'd like to start by welcoming and congratulating the Sunburst Youth Academy. It's really a pleasure to have you guys here. You guys don't know, but the entire community is proud of what you do, and we look forward to coming to your graduation. Probably not as much as you are, but we go to a lot of them, though. You only get to go to one. As Dean mentioned, we did go to a plant tour on the sanitation district, saw our dollars at work, and got my 3rd briefing on the roads, and none of them get any better. But I did want to ask Brett, though, that what the city can do to get the survey out. Whatever we can do website-wise or whatever else you can think of, I'd like to see us do. Also attended the chamber breakfast where Ron and Emlyn do a phenomenal job of promoting the city. You guys really use that forum in an excellent way that nobody, I think, has ever done before. So keep it up. Warren and I were able to attend Senator Tom Unberg's luncheon here. He was an interesting guy. He listened. He had a lot of questions. He wanted to work on solutions, and I thought it was a very good meeting. I'd also like to point out our own Mr. Dave Hunt. I didn't want to pull your contract item because I was afraid that might get your heart a little excited because nobody likes to see their contract get pulled. But Dave's an example of the employees we have at the city that love this city and work here and spend the money like it's their own money. And we really want to thank you for your efforts over the years on our behalf. And finally, to the Budget Standing Committee, we thanked them in the first meeting, but you guys did a phenomenal job. The hole was bigger than ever, filled it completely. So good luck next year. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So as Councilmember Gross said, he and I attended the reception for the Center for Law and Military Justice, and this is an initiative to allow, I guess, those that serve under the flag of the United States ability to get justice for things that may be not war-related or battle-related. So it was a very interesting meeting, so we'll see what evolves out of that. I also attended the meeting with Senator Tom Umberg, and as Mayor Pro Tem Murphy said, it was rather interesting, where we had, I guess, a rapid-fire round of discussions in 1 hour, and he doesn't want to solve things. He wants to understand our community. He is here to help us as our representative up there in Sacramento, so that was really refreshing. And finally, I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Murphy for attending the city visits to local businesses. I was unable to attend, and I think the previous visit, the most recent visit, was with Southline Credit Union, so I saw that in the weekly, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And with that, we'll go ahead and close this item on council comments. And then, City Manager, if we can just hold off, we're going to take a quick break. How about a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back and do the rest of that. So
Before
10
you,
minutes. Oh.
before you take the recess, because the students may leave,
Okay.
we refer to them as the Sunburst Youth Academy, and in reality, there's over, or close to 200 of them. What is here this evening is the student council, and they are elected by their constituents that are at the academy. So they're here to see how we operate from the standpoint of the city in comparison, and how it relates to how they operate there at the academy. And good job, guys. We appreciate, guys and gals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 10 minutes. Reconvene this meeting. We're on item number 8, items for the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. First of all, as Mayor Pro Tem Murphy said, I want to welcome Eric Hendrickson, our Finance Director, his first full official meeting, and has been doing a good job with the standing committee and staff, and welcome aboard, and we're very pleased to have you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Very glad to have you here. I want to also thank the Budget Standing Committee, the council, and the executive team for all the efforts on developing a fiscal sustainability plan, and let the public know that we're going to have a presentation by staff, our fiscal sustainability manager, finance director, executive team, budget standing committee will be there, and we'll do a PowerPoint kind of introducing fiscal sustainability to the community at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast meeting on Friday, June 7th at 7:30 a.m. So I want to get that out there. And then Ron wanted me to mention that summer is coming. So I'm going to turn it over to Ron Noda. Let you guys know summer's coming. That means a lot of programs coming up with recreation and community services in the entire city.
Was there a change in the schedule?
Thank you, Brett. Mayor, City Council, like you said, summer's around the corner. It actually starts in 2 weeks. So we have a lot of programs and events going on at the Recreation and Community Services Department. First off, we like to say that we have day camp coming up. Go visit our website and register online for day camp right now. It's 9 weeks of summer fun. We also have our summer park program that's going on as well. It's held at 2 locations, Orville Lewis Park and Little Cottonwood Park. And of course, we have our events coming up. So the 2 events that I want to talk about today is our Serve La Salle event, which is scheduled for June 21st and 22nd. We are still in need of volunteers, so go visit that website to register and volunteer. Hopefully, we'll see you out there on that Saturday or Friday. And then also we have our music and movies in the park. We have 4 right now scheduled for the city for the summer. We kind of travel from park to park to hit up different neighborhoods. So our first one is scheduled for June 15th. It's going to be at Little Cottonwood Park. And the movie there will be Trolls, and the band will be Southland Mega Groove. And then the other June event will be June 29th. It's at the Sunburst Field at the Joint Forces Training Base. The movie there is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and the band is a 4-alarm band. So come on out. It's a free event. We're going to have lots of activities for the kids. Again, live music that's free, the movie that's free, and then we'll have food vendors that will offer food for sale as well. Okay, so like I said, check out the city's website and register and check out all the free events that's going on, or the programs or the events, like I said, that we have going on in the summer. Thank you.
That's it, okay. Next, we'll have warrants, item 9. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Hasselbrink, Murphy, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Kusamoto.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Turco.
Aye.
Councilmember Gross.
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I want to take things a little bit out of order. I'd like to move up with no objections from the council. We move up item 11 as 11A. So we can dispense with that. So Brett, are we ready on 11A?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and City Council. We have the status of the Golden State Water Apartment Row, the water line replacement project. We can have Les Johnson introduce the topic. We also have Ken Vecchiarelli and his team here to answer questions from the council as well. So, Les, you want to briefly introduce it?
Honorable Mayor, council members, good evening. At the request of council from the previous meeting, the April 15th meeting, staff has brought this item before you for your consideration for a matter of discussion. The project that was of a point of discussion last month has to do with the Golden State Water utility replacing a number of water mains within the apartment row neighborhood. And that will subsequently result in a number of new service connections to various apartments and single-family residential connections in that area. The project construction started in early November. Of course, as you all know, we had a very wet winter, one of the wettest winters we've had in years, which was really a challenge for Golden State Water's contractor. They had some unforeseen issues with some of the work that was performed in the temporary pavement that was laid down over the trenching that was done, and a few other matters that became a bit of a difficulty for the residents within that neighborhood. Since the last council meeting, there has been quite a bit of work conducted out there. If you've been through it and possibly seen it firsthand, the biggest point was that they've completed all of the main line replacements, the installation of the new fire hydrants, replacement of hydrants, and also did all their paving of those areas that they had disturbed within those various streets, and some concrete work as well. So all that work has been completed. And there is a few minor items remaining with regards to some striping that needs to be conducted. And then our crew's also going to come out in areas that are outside of their purview and just get all of the stop bars and stop lettering put in, just have a more finished look throughout that neighborhood. Now the next phase two, if you will, the next step of the project is in process. We have met with Golden State recently to talk about that. Nothing is definitive at this point in time, as they are still doing their due diligence work, and they can talk about that further if you'd like later. But in the phase two work, the issue at hand is the connections, those service line connections, the new meters being established, and then the actual connection from that meter to the residents. The biggest challenge, and a lot of that has to do with the previous meter, or I should say current meters, are in the alley, and they're now being relocated out to the fronting street. So now a new service line has to be established from that meter out in the fronting street to the backside of the residences. And so there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be conducted by Golden State Water's contractor in being able to do that. A key item on our part that we indicated to Golden State at the very beginning is that the city would be requiring a building permit for that connection. That's a standard plumbing connection that we would require of anybody that had a new meter established, or a new connection, not a new meter, but a new connection from the meter into their servicing a residence or a commercial venture, et cetera. And that we would be expecting that from Golden State, and they understand that and have been preparing for that accordingly. In the discussion that occurred at the council meeting, there was a question with regards to the dialogue and engagement, not only between Golden State and the city, but with our residents and those that are going to be impacted by this. So within the report, I've identified some points for your consideration this evening. And I wanted to also mention, too, that as we've gone through this effort, I think it's really been an eye-opener for us on how we can dialogue and engage closer with our utility companies, And a few things that we've been talking about internally is annual meetings with each utility to be able to understand for the coming year or two the capital projects that they have proposed. And then also, depending on the magnitude of the project, working with the utility to really do a better job in coordinating the effort of engagement and outreach with our residents. A lot of times our residents don't see, be it the sanitary sewer district, Golden State Water, Edison, et cetera, they don't see the utility, they see the city. And so what we can do, I guess, to be better understanding of the dialogue and engagement and outreach that occurs, as well as just being a sounding board and hearing from our residents and being able to convey that information to the utilities, we want to make sure we're doing an even better job going forward in that case. So with that, that's a brief overview. And as Brett mentioned, we do have representatives from Golden State Water here in the audience tonight to be a part of this discussion as well. And that'll conclude my report, and happy to answer your questions.
So any questions before we open up to the public? So unless I have some questions, and I know we kind of met informally with the resident as well as with the Golden State Water folks, but I guess the question for staff is, what did you think this was going to be? I mean, it was kind of easy to see, right? This is a big project, and there is an endpoint that results in, I guess, the rerouting of the water mains, right? So, I mean, I get the sense that you didn't know what it was going to look like when it's done. And all the, I guess, all the impacts to, besides our infrastructure, but the property owners. So am I wrong in my perception?
With regards to infrastructure, Mayor, we obviously understood all of those new lines and exactly where they're going, and where they did indicate where the meters would be established. But with regards to the individual connections, be it a single-family home or a multi-unit project, those have to be assessed and evaluated on a case-by-case basis based on that environment of that particular lot. So in our conversations that we had with Golden State early on, they acknowledged that was going to be a case-by-case engagement.
Right, but I think the other part I heard, that if the landowner doesn't agree, they're going to be deprived of water because the connection in the back alleyway that goes to the meter will dry up, is in my words. So, you know, it goes back to what were we thinking from this project. Now, I just recently had some work done, as you well know, right? And I needed my contractor to pull a permit and all that, and that was me, right? My contractor had to do it as an agent for me. How does that mechanically work for Golden State when they're not the contractor for the landowner? So those are some of the questions I think that should have been asked and answered before even granting the encroachment permit. So we are in this mess where we're at, and what I would hope to do out of this discussion is 2 of us will be appointed by the council here to act as sort of this ad hoc task force to work with staff, work with the contractor, or with Golden State and with their contractor, to really get a sense of how do you work through all these issues. At least that's my perspective. I'm willing to hear the discussion, but you know, Councilmember Gross and I have talked about this, and I don't know if you want to bring up anything, Dean, but hang on a second. So I'm looking at this thing saying, yeah, this is good to get status, but I want to know how are we going to get to the end point? And it's not, you know, Golden State, you know, Ken, thank you for being here, but go pull a permit on behalf of property owner A who may or may not know, want, or whatever, and there's a bunch of other, I think, I'll say for liability, I think, that goes along with it. So anyways, Dean, did you have any comments?
I think, based on some of our discussion, this has been the one project that has generated more negative impact from residents and constituents down in the apartment row area, which is the high density area. And in talking with staff, it's kind of clear we've got relatively new staff that is involved with this, and our biggest concern has been, how do we avoid this kind of thing from happening again? What are our policies, and maybe an ad hoc committee to kind of help identify that, because it's not just Golden State, it could be Southern California Edison, it could be Southern California Gas, it could be anybody. And we need to have a better system in place from the city, because quite frankly, I think the city looks terrible in this. And we've allowed it to occur, and the efforts of Golden State in hiring a contractor, I don't think Golden State has held the contractor to the standards that we believe should be handled from the standpoint of our community. And so it makes us look bad. I've had emails from somebody saying, tell me that the potholes that have been filled along Farquhar is not the finished job. And we failed from the standpoint of being able to communicate, have the type of information out. What we heard earlier tonight on what's going to be the next big project with the sanitation district, they seem to have this type of program in place, and they're doing outreach extremely early. It's just been, from my perspective, it's been very frustrating, and I've talked to Golden State about it and been told, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. I don't think they care. I don't think they really get it from the standpoint. And so in talking with the mayor, and it's not being critical specifically on Golden State, I think it comes back to the city in the process of establishing when an agreement or utility comes in is going to do things. Here's the level of engagement, here's the level of service that we expect. And if you're going to use subcontractor A, we want subcontractor A to sign off on this. And if subcontractor doesn't perform, then somebody has to be accountable in the responsibility. And it's easy to say that, well, you know, the contractor didn't get this done, or we had weather problems, or whatever it is. A lot of the patchwork came back up, and believe me, the people from the standpoint of the residents down there and the complaints are not happy. And when we're going into this phase 2 part of it, where we're actually going onto people's private property, in many cases, the people that are down there are not the owners of the property. And one of the problems we have in a lot of places around Los Alamitos is that we've got absentee landlords, or we've got management companies that manage the property on behalf. So we've really got to get those people engaged so that they understand what's happening to their property, and get them to help with their tenants in the process of what's going to happen, so that we don't wind up with this black eye going forward. And unfortunately, you guys happen to be the ones in this particular case at this time that are kind of like the guinea pig, I guess. But in our discussions, we really feel, and I've talked with staff, we really feel like it's been a learning experience from the standpoint of the city, and an experience that we need to establish guidelines. So if this particular director isn't here 2 years from now, whoever is has that same guideline going forward, so that we understand what it is that the expectation, especially from the elected body, is the same. So
any other comments?
Yeah, I just think going through this next phase, we really need to understand exactly what's happening and why. The contractors were abysmal. I'll give you specific examples. Leaving their equipment parked in front of people's homes for the weekend, not even an apartment row. They've got a birthday party going on. There's no parking because there's backhoes parked in the front yard. We had opening day at Los Alamitos Youth Baseball. Not only did they block a lane, but they parked on a red zone in front of a fire hydrant for the weekend when we had 1,000 people coming into that baseball field. Who do we call? How do we get them out of there? I mean, it was just, we can't do that. Going into this next phase, what is it that you're doing? What's the warranties? What's the encroachment in the people's properties? What if they say no? Can they say no? And can you deprive them of water? I mean, we need to, in layman's terms, what's going on step by step. The communication has to get better. We don't know. They're not really telling us. You know, we need to understand, you know, the final phase of what you're trying to get to and how we're going to get there. And so the residents and the owners and the tenants and the businesses and everybody affected fully understand, because this was just, it was a full-time job, just trying to vet all the phone calls and the complaints, and, you know, the city taking a lot of the blame for it, because if you're tearing up the streets, it must be the city. So we really need to take this and take a step back and really understand what this next phase is before we approve anything.
And I think we have learned from this project what not to do, a lot of things not to do, in terms of improvements that Less is incorporated into the staff report, things that we've learned, things that we'll do in the future. One of the reasons we had Orange County Sanitation District here tonight, laying out these major projects that are going to have a significant impact on our community and surrounding communities well in advance. I think we would appreciate the feedback of the ad hoc committee. I know that staff, I know that Les, I know that Dave Hunt, they've been all over Golden State Water on an ongoing basis. I know Ken knows that as well. And we've continued to communicate with them the problems that we've had on this project, and we will continue to stay on top of them and make improvements as we move forward. But we appreciate the feedback. We have made every effort that we can from staff's perspective, and we'll continue to push Golden State Water to improve the next phase of this project.
It's been costly to the city because even when the request for the reader boards was approved, one of the boards was put on Farquhar facing the wrong direction. And so it required staff having to go out and double check everything that had been put out there and responding to complaints and things that's not the city's responsibility. That really comes back to the contractor, or in this case, Golden State Water. And we need a plan in place from the standpoint of the city so that we don't go through this type of situation in the future.
Okay, with that introduction, maybe we should have gone to the presentation first. I don't know if you want to present, Ken. Be happy to listen to your presentation about the project. So.
Sure. What I'm going to do is skip the intro slides, which are basically about the background of the company. We have been serving the community for 90 years. Everything that you said about a black eye, obviously this is a black eye on our service in the community in the oversight of this project. We have since taken action to complete the work that the current contractor's working on. In other words, we actually adjusted his contract. He will not be doing phase 2 work. So I do want to skip to the point about this project and provide a little bit of more details to answer some of the questions. So all of the preamble was how we got to this. We're a PUC regulated utility. Our projects have to be approved through the PUC. That doesn't excuse not having a better communications and relationship with the city to say, we're coming, here it is. November when we began construction, we worked before we began, we worked diligently with the city. They've been very cooperative. Obviously, staff has been very helpful through, as they said, a very challenging project. This particular project is about a $2.8 million project. It began in early November. Primarily, it filled in part of the distribution grids in the streets, and I'll set up I'll show you the slide that's a little better than the one that the staff report showed. It didn't show up everything, but we began in November with the intent of being completed in April. Shortly after beginning the project and having some issues with both weather and with the contractor, we did switch our inspection efforts a couple times. The last effort that I think we've got the inspectors doing a much better job. The phase 1 of the project is these new pipelines, fire hydrants, and service lines. That's from the main to the new meter location. So those are all in place now for the entire project. And again, I'll show you an exhibit that kind of explains these phases and the improvements involved. We are in design right now, and when I say design for phase 2, we pulled out those elements of the contract that this particular contractor was excused from doing now, and we're going to bid that out again. So that is the private house plumbing. That's from the meter to the most logical connection point. In some cases, that's all the way in the back of the property. Our intent is to provide a letter to each of the property owners. Now, we also will provide construction notices not just to the owners, but also to the residents when the time is right. But we initially have to get in touch with all the property owners. And our approach for that is we've drafted a letter that explains the project that already happened. Again, in most cases in this area, those property owners aren't there because it's tenants and residents. So we'll explain what's already been done. We'll have, again, this exhibit, and we'll also have a service line questionnaire, which is essentially a service form that identifies the number of fixtures in their particular building. That is in compliance with the plumbing code and with the PUC requirements that they should have the right size service, the right size meter, and the right size plumbing after that meter. The PUC doesn't regulate the plumbing after the meter, but it does indicate that we're responsible for making sure that the service and the meter is the right size. Now that we're changing the location of that service from the alley to the streets, it's important that we also right size the plumbing on the other side. So that is phase 2 and phase 3, but I'll get to that later. We have downsized the footprint of phase 2 right now, and again, I'll show you on the exhibit our intentions. But we are putting together some specifications that we will go out to bid. Hopefully, we will actually do, this is a very specific type of work. Most of these services won't be open trench on the property. There will be directionally bored through the property. And so that has to be at the right depth. It has to be with, again, knowledge of what we need to miss and where that service line will be from here on out for the property owners. And so let me get to the exhibit. Again, it didn't come out real well, the colors we used on the slide. So all of the lines in blue are the new mains that have been constructed. And this is Lexington and Reagan. And it's between Green and Farquhar. So that's the limits of the current project. We are in the punch list phase of that project. So the contractor's been made aware that he will not be completing the rest of the project elements, but is responsible for all the work that was done, for completing that work to the satisfaction of the city and Golden State Water Company and the permit requirements. So again, the blue lines, the dark blue lines, undashed, those are new mains that are now in place. Primarily, they are 8-inch pipelines, replacing, actually, they're not replacing anything. These are elements that were not there in most cases. So we had other components of pipelines or undersized pipelines replaced. But for the most part, wherever you see a new main, it is filling in a gap in our distribution system that's in the streets. The pipelines in the alleyways, which are these 2 dashed lines here, and the rest of the dashed lines are also existing mains. But I want to focus on this red and green dash line. That's between Howard and Green Aves. The project initially was identified to abandon this alleyway main, which has been problematic for all the same reasons that the Sand District mentioned. It's been in service for over 60 years. In some cases, undersized, not lined. We have 4-inch, oh, sorry about that. We have 4-inch mains, so it's not a matter of it's large enough we could reline it or anything like that. So we're replacing 4-inch cast iron mains that have been corroding over time and bursting and causing leaks, very costly leaks in those alleyways with all of the concrete, and hard to actually locate at times because of the concrete. It's not the same as when a main or a service leaks in the street. Typically, it's going to go to the nearest point of least resistance, a curb, the curb gutter interface, or just start coming up through cracks in the street. And they're pretty easy to identify where they are. Not so much in the concrete alleyway, and of course, the replacement of the concrete every time these leaks occur has been very expensive and problematic. So let me get that pointer again. So what we have changed since the beginning of this construction is this area has been taken away and all the private services have been taken away from the existing contractor, and we're going to go out to bid because that would all be subcontracted anyway, but we really need somebody with experience in doing this work and a better contractor, in my opinion. So the yellow squares basically represent all of the lots that will be replumbed in phase 2. So you can see a small section, let me get that again, a small section along Noel between Green And that's these properties that are served right there. And again, we will be working very closely with the city to identify both the property owners and the addresses affected by this, this work. Get it again? The areas in blue will be done in phase 3, and I'll talk about the timing in phase 3. But right now, we're focusing on completing phase 1 with the current contractor, making sure everything is done, done correctly, and then at the same time bidding phase 2 with another contractor to do the private lines. The work in phase 2 is primarily lot by lot, so obviously less impact to the community as they're putting in these directional boring machines in front of the property that they're working on. We worked initially with the city to talk about the permit process, and the question was, how can the district or its contractor pull the permit? That's what we're offering in the letter, is that we have cooperated and collaborated with the city to be able to pull permits on their property, and we're offering that construction work under our contract and under a permit with the city. You asked about the, Councilmember Hasselbrink, you asked about the warranty. All of our work is warranted for material and workmanship for 2 years. Now, this is new plumbing that's going in. The directional boring, depending on the size, that's typically no joints for 100 or 200 feet, depending on the diameters. So the good news is, you know, it's HDPE pipe, it's non-corrosive. It will go a good couple hundred feet without a joint. The joint locations are typically exposed and part of the permit, part of the inspection that the private plumbing has to show, that I'm aware of. We will not be able to abandon this green line until we do phase 2. Our intent is to abandon the red portion of this line with the completion of phase 2. Phase 2 work, again, will work individually on the lot plumbing, 1 lot at a time or 2 lots at a time, depending on the duration of the project. If we're able to get multiple pieces of equipment out there, and again, work with the city on it. But the impact is a much smaller impact. The communication initially is with the private property owner. A general construction notice will go out as soon as we have timing on all of this. That will go out to the residents. A lot of the residents aren't our direct customers in that they don't pay the bill, the water bill, so they don't get some of the notices we send along with the bills. We will need to do door tags and mailing addresses to try to reach the residents as well. Give them a broad overview, what we've already completed, what our intention is for phase 2. We will talk about phase 3. We'll put this information on our website as well, and the city has offered to put links on the city's website to get residents, and even if they're not our customers, if they have access to the web, they can look at more information on phase 2 and phase 3. Our intention is after we get this project approved and completed, we'll have a much better understanding of the costs associated with completing phase 3 as well. We may need to go back to the PUC in our current 2020 GRC and request additional funds to complete phase 3. We may be able to get phase 3 covered through our own board of directors and approvals through our executives. We won't know until we bid phase 2 and complete it and have a better understanding of exactly how that all goes. It's not easy. Again, we have to find the property owners. We have matched the county assessor parcel information with our customer service database, and where there's a discrepancy, we'll mail to both. And that is, again, to identify the property owner. We have to have the property owner's permission and the property owner's coordination to get the house line done. As Mayor Kosumoto mentioned in one of our previous informal meetings, we talked about the fact that this is a PUC-approved project. The PUC approved that private plumbing portion initially, which is kind of rare, but this is a special case. It's not as simple as a single-family resident, you know, pulling in some cases, we're able to, in the projects we've done like this where there's a single family resident, we've been able to actually connect to the front on a hose bib or some other closer location and found that their service in their house has been perfectly fine. They've not had any problems. This is not the case. This is 4-plex, 6-plex, 8-plex, in some cases even larger, very few single-family residential properties. We have to do our best to try to coordinate the information with what exists on site, whether or not that service has to be chased all the way back to the back. In that case, it's probably going to be a minimum 2-inch service line to get back to the back and not impact pressure losses and other things. One of the things that I mentioned is a fixture count. And unfortunately, when we did a survey of the existing services and existing meters for these properties, in some cases they're falling up significantly short. And what I mean by that is a 5/8 inch meter or a 3/4 inch meter serving multiple residential properties. I can't imagine these folks are being well served by the internal plumbing right now through a 5/8. It doesn't meet today's plumbing code. It doesn't meet today's standards for right sizing the service and the meter. So we're going to identify, we've created a form letter. It's basically a mail merge letter that will have the elements of their existing service line, their existing meter, what we believe their service line should be, what that basis is, and then that fixture count. So that fixture count is their opportunity to say, no, we don't need a 1-inch or 1.5 inch meter for this 8-plex. Here's the plumbing information. Here's the fixture count. Please keep this as a 5/8 meter. That kind of communication is not going to happen overnight. So there's going to be a delay between when we get phase 2 into construction. The entire time, though, we'll be communicating again with the city, keeping them informed on our progress. Phase 2 is about 80 services complete, but that includes 9 on Lexington, where their service is already on Lexington. We just pulled a new service and a new meter, so we just have to construct the tail end, from the tail end of the meter to their existing service in the front of the house. Does that make sense? So those are much quicker. But the ones on Noel and all of these in yellow will be, there's 51 properties, but there's about 70 total services. So some of the properties already have multiple services from the alleyway. We put in multiple services to the front, so they'll have more than one service line crossing their property. You might ask why this is not yellow. Well, that's because this portion of the main was already in, and those services were already reconnected. And that is in Howard between, I believe that's Maple and Reagan, or Bloomfield and Reagan, I forgot. Maple. Yeah, this is Bloomfield, thank you. So between Maple and Reagan, all of these, you can just barely see the shadow of the buildings, but all of these buildings are already served off of Green Ave. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't think there was so this is basically what I was talking about, a notice that we'd like to send out, a letter to the property owner of record. And again, we will do both. We'll send to, if it's different, the information between the AP, the assessor's information, and our customer service information. We'll send it to both, asking for either the property owner or their representative, for them to define and identify, if it's not them, who will be their representative to coordinate construction of the private plumbing. So our tentative plan would be to solicit bids sometime in July, assuming what we intend to do too is to mail a self-addressed stamped envelope with that fixture count and with our letter going out to those property owners, or the owners of records and the folks paying the bill, asking them to be responsive so we can continue with this project, get into the next phase, and be able to abandon the problematic pipelines in the alleyway. So there's still a question out there. The question is, what if a property owner doesn't agree and they don't want to have Golden State Water Company reconnect them from the alleyway? we have to make a determination after figuring out how many of those folks don't want us to do the work and give them some window of opportunity. And we haven't decided what that would be. And again, we can work collaboratively with the city. The most recent main leak on that 4-inch cast iron, I think, was around Christmas. So it is, again, on borrowed time. We would like to abandon that as quickly as possible, but we'll work with both the community and the city to get a reasonable time frame in there, so that if property owners want to do that work themselves, unfortunately, it'll be at their cost and their time. We don't have PUC approval to cut checks. We have PUC approval to construct.
Question, yeah. There's also a difference, if I'm not mistaken, on rates. So if you're on a 3/8 line or a 1/2-inch line and you go to a 1-inch line, your rates are going to increase based on the size of the line.
Meter. Of the meter.
Of the meter.
Yes, sir.
But that's related to the...
It is. Yes,
related
sir,
to the
that's
line
right.
as well. So if they increase that line for pressure coming in, the meter increases the same way.
No, and well, let me just backtrack on that. So we have two residential service line sizes. Our standards put in a 1-inch service line, and this is from the main to the meter again, and a 2-inch. So whether you have a 5/8 by 3/4, a 1-inch, actually those are basically the old, there was a 5/8, a 5/8 by 3/4, and a 1-inch. All of those are connected to a 1-inch service line in the new construction. In the old construction, some of those were 5/8 service lines from the main to the meter, and also at times, very rare, but at times 3/4 inch. All of those are either a 1-inch or a 2-inch based on the expectation of the meter and the service beyond the meter. So, but our tariffs, our approved tariffs, are done by the meter size. So it isn't uncommon for a customer to know that our tariffs are cheaper, the monthly service charge is cheaper for a smaller meter. To know that and to request for a downsize. We will not grant that downsize if the fixture count and sprinklers and any other irrigation system, if that doesn't meet the plumbing code, we won't allow them to downsize. We're concerned that we're on the opposite end right now. Again, these mains were put in the 50s in some cases. I even saw a service line in the 40s. That had to be back when they were growing some crop around there. It was a 5/8 meter and a 5-inch service line, but since then, there's a 4-plex or a 6-plex. That never got upgraded. It needs to be upgraded. We can't just put a blind eye to that. So one thing that we may, I mean, now that you say it, we should probably include our tariffs, our approved tariffs that do show the residential costs. And again, to call us to discuss this in more details, to talk about the implications. And yeah, it's
if you
going
don't include it on the front end, if you don't include it on the front end, we're going to hear about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear about this
Yeah,
anyway.
okay,
I mean,
fine, you
the
can
truth
put this
is.
in. You didn't tell me it was going to go up rate-wise. So let's have that out front too, so that they see the whole picture and what they're in for.
Fair enough. We can modify that letter. It is a draft form. I wanted to make sure that we went through this process first before we finalize it, and I could send a draft out to city staff before we send it out as well.
That's fine.
So you said that the existing lines right now are made of cast iron.
The ones that we're trying to abandon.
Right,
Yeah. Yes.
So pretty good material. They've lasted 60, 70 years, some of them, right?
They have, but
Yeah.
they're not good anymore.
Right, but I understand, but they've lasted decades.
Absolutely.
So what are the new lines going to be? What material?
They are PVC.
So they're plastic.
They are.
And so now if there is
I'm sorry. You said service lines. I'm sorry. Did the mains themselves? You were talking about the cast iron. I may have confused the issue. The mains are cast iron. The services can be galvanized. They can be copper. The old ones, depending on how often they've been replaced.
But they weren't plastic. They weren't PVC.
I don't know if there's more plastic service lines. And when I say service lines, that's from the main to the meter. We don't put in anything but copper now.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is, right now, if there's a leak in the alley, Golden State Water comes and fixes it, correct?
Correct.
So now with these new going through the owner's property after the 2-year warranty, and there's a leak, who pays for it?
The owner.
Right.
Yeah, if it's after the
So
meter.
what's the compelling reason for the owner to approve this?
Well, again, their services being transferred to the street. So
They have
at
no
some
choice.
point, at some point in
So
time, they
asking
need to do that
permission,
work.
They have no choice.
We're asking their cooperation and coordination with getting the
And if
rest
you
of
don't
the
get
work
their
done.
cooperation, it's going to happen anyway.
It is.
Okay. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Yes.
This is going to happen with or without you, and you're going to pay for this after 2 years. If there's any leaks, you're going to pay for this, and it's going to be on the owners to make sure that the material is good and everything else. I mean, this is no longer a Golden State issue when there's a leak coming from the meter.
Oh, and it never has been if it's coming from the meter. So from the meter's always been, from the meter to the
But
house
the
has
back alley
always been.
stuff, that is now going to be the responsibility of the owner after the 2-year warranty.
The only part of the back alley that will remain in place is any of the system we don't abandon. Our
Right,
intention is
no,
to
I'm
abandon
talking
all of
about
it.
Stuff, yeah, abandoning all the back alley that right now Golden State Water comes and fixes at no cost to the property owner.
No, I'm sorry, just between the main and the meter.
Right.
Yeah, any leaking mains and anything between the main and the meter.
Okay, so now with the new system, after the 2-year warranty, who is responsible for fixing any leaks between the main and the meter?
Still Golden State Water Company.
So Golden State?
Yes, yes. Between the main and the meter, it'll be in the streets now. The main in the street and the meter in the street. Once we abandon that main and the meters and the service lines in the alleyway, which is actually where we want to get to, there's no more liability there.
So what's the 2-year warranty cover?
All of the new construction.
And after the 2-year, the owner's responsible for any problems with that?
For the portion from the meter to their connection point, if it's in the back of their house on their private property.
Right.
Just like today, if there's a leak anywhere on their private property or their private plumbing, they pay for that as well. This is new construction,
Okay.
it's new materials, so
Okay.
it should be.
But please, in your communication, don't do this as permission or voluntarily. This is going to happen. You're either on the boat or we're going to do it anyway, right?
Understood.
It
Yeah,
is.
Yeah, yeah.
They have absolutely no, they can't say no.
It's just a matter of timing and who
Yeah.
pays. Yeah.
Okay, well then,
Yeah.
please communicate that.
Okay. Understood.
You're abandoning the alleyway where the meters are.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
You're not removing them. So there's a meter box in the alley.
We removed the meter box and patched that area of the concrete as well. So there will be no more meter box in the back.
Okay.
Or valves, and in some cases, if there's, I don't know if we have hydrants in the alleyway, but we have new hydrants on the street mains connected to the new mains. I'm actually not certain if there are any hydrants, but if there are any hydrants in the alleyway, they will also be removed and properly patched, the concrete.
Does that meet the fire code stuff as well? I mean, you've made note that you've put in, I think, 7 new meters or 7 new hydrants.
Yeah, 7 or 8, I forget.
And
yeah, the fire system, the fire grid is now coming through all of these pipelines instead of through, in most cases, an inferior main, which is a 4-inch cast iron piece from here and a 4-inch and 8-inch steel unlined, which again has been corroding. So.
I mean, I've noticed when there have been fires, big fires in there, trucks are in the alley. So if there's if there's hydrants back there where they're drawing from that, is that going to affect their ability to function?
I'm not sure how they fight their fire, if they're connecting to hydrants or they're bringing in pumper trucks from the back that they've filled up from other hydrants. But I can guarantee that this new grid is much stronger and provides much better fire protection to the community.
Pressure
and flow.
Yeah.
And flow. In that case, though, they're using a pumper truck to pump up the pressure to the system and the private
Yeah.
sprinklers in the house.
In the building.
They can still do that with a pumper truck. In some cases, those trucks are typically, they may be connected to another source of water to keep them going, but their pumper trucks are usually pumping up the pressure. Now, these fire services that Beth mentioned are another service with another meter and a backflow device all on private plumbing. In that case, those will most likely, the new service will come from the street over to those connections, but in a larger piece of pipe that doesn't lose pressure or head by taking that route several hundred feet. So in some cases, these are lots that are 200 feet long.
The chief is here, so I mean, if there's issues, if you're aware from the standpoint of alleyways and access and fighting, the fires from back there, is that going to impact what you guys have been doing? Do you know?
I'm not really following what he's explaining to you completely. So we do use alleys, obviously. This hooking up to a sprinkler connection, we do that, but we have to be on a source of water at that time as well. So, you know, our concern obviously would be how many gallons per minute we'd be able to get out of that system and be able to get to our engines. And then once it gets to the engines, we can increase that volume or pressure depending on our need.
So in that case, again, there's going to be hydrants and already are hydrants all along the mains in the street. I'd have to look at the actual plan details to find out how close to these intersections.
So the portion we want to do in phase 2, there's no hydrant in the alleyway. Come to the microphone, please. So I checked the plans. Oh. So I checked the plans. This portion of main that we want to abandon in phase 2, there should be no fire hydrant in the alley. And on top of that, when we try to design a new distribution mains, we try to space the fire hydrant 300 to 600 feet out, which is meeting the residential requirement for fire flow.
Okay, thank you. So, Ken, when we met back in January, I know we talked about a lot of things, but I think one of the things that we walked away with is that Long was going to provide a list of, I guess, property owners' addresses to Les, and did that all happen, Les? Of the properties that were going to be affected in, I guess, whatever phases?
There was a preliminary list, but I think as was mentioned, they've continued to work on that and verifying that list based on county records and their ratepayer records.
Okay. And I think the thing that, well, we're kind of getting into the weeds on some of this. I think that's part of, the next part that I'd like to see us as a council take action on. And it's really, I think, to work with staff to make sure that that we're looking after the interests of our constituents. And again, in partnership with you, Golden State, and your contractor or contractors. But the part I think that, as Councilmember Hasselbrink had pointed out, this is not a, we'd like to do this. It's like, you got to get it done. And there are some other, I'm sure, unintended consequences that have yet to manifest itself that might kind of wonder, again, going down into a little bit of the weeds, if you were to put this new line in, the pressure kind of increases, then it'll probably expose some other weaknesses inside the residential units themselves, right? And one can just imagine if there's water leaks or with the correct sizing of water mains, that there'll be other issues. So those are things I think we have to just be planning for as a group. And those things, how do you mitigate that? How do you warn people to be ready for those kinds of things? And it's not necessarily a Golden State as well as the city, because we have in the permitting process, we're going to be putting our stamp of what both allow the work to be done as well as approval, sign off the work has been done correctly. So you recognize that we're not going to be out of this thing just because they're doing it and they're paying the money, right? I think that's what we've just really seen in this latest go-round. So thanks, Kent.
There is an oversight on the permit that's issued, unless you want to briefly describe.
Well, hang on.
that.
Yeah, so we can get into that. But Ken, I think, is there anything else on the presentation?
No, I think that pretty well covers it.
Thank you. And I know we have a member of the public here who probably wants to make some comments as well. So
Thank you.
I'll open it up for public comments.
Yes, my name is Art DeBolt. I'm a resident of the city. I've got a typed out speech, but I'm going to kind of 86 that because of what I've heard, and I feel I need to comment and raise more questions. I left you guys with a handout of photos of cracks in the concrete that was laid. Those photos were taken about 14 days after the concrete was poured, to the point that it's chunking out already. All right, so the concrete on the swales at these intersections, those two are at Howard and Bloomfield, and the other one's at Farquhar and Maple. Frankly, I wouldn't let anything proceed until they jackhammer out and do the stuff properly. They either didn't have the right mix, if they had the right amount of rebar, whether they did or not, I don't know. I doubt that I know the site was not inspected at the time of the pouring or prior to it, because I was there when I was there taking pictures while they were pouring. The guy was asking me if I was a inspector. This was done on Good Friday, by the way. City was closed and nobody was around. But just a comment, I like the idea of the ad hoc committee, and I think it's needed. From what I heard today, it is absolutely needed. Okay, the bottom line is that in our meeting, I was in the same meeting with the mayor and staff and Mr. Vecchiarelli. He made it abundantly clear that they're going to do this job with the absolute minimum in quality of materials, scope of work, and performance guarantees. Absolute minimum. Okay, and since there's no easements for Golden State to access the private properties, they have to obtain permission from the landowners to begin work. I seriously doubt that this is a take it or leave it proposition. This is not unless there's some type of eminent domain procedure that the PUC can invoke or that they can invoke, they're going to have permission. The last thing an individual would want to do would be the last person to refuse. But we need to know exactly what is being proposed for the property owners. Okay, I'll give you a few of my concerns, but from what I heard here, the last one about water pressure. Okay, for the city, this is not just simply a connection of a meter, okay, to the main. This is a completely new water service, essentially brand new construction. I'm glad to see they're looking at sizing of the pipe. Okay, that's fine. For water pressure under new construction, at least down in the city of Irvine, I'm assuming it's the same up here, there's got to be water regulators or pressure regulators on the pipes going into the house to account for the fluctuations in pressure or whatever. Okay, if that's required under new construction, and that is what this is a new water service. Okay, is the city going to require that? And who pays for it? I'd like to keep going if I could get permission to continue. Okay, who's going to pay for that? I'm listening to, with the right sizing of the pipe. Keep in mind, these properties were all built and they were built to code. The code changes. Now, not because the homeowner's coming forward and asking for a new water service, but because the utility, for whatever reason, has decided to move meters from the back to the front. You're now going to increase the distance of the pipes about 150 to 200 feet of piping. Those lots are deep, 150 feet, 140 feet. Plus, you're going to make a couple of turns to get to it. I kind of heard tonight that the owners are going to be given an option, or maybe no option. If they have to put a larger diameter pipe in than what is already there that might necessitate a larger meter, who's paying for that? Certainly not the homeowner shouldn't be paying for that. We're not asking for this project. This is done for their convenience because they don't want to break up concrete in the alley. The mains are there. This project, I mean, had they come to a public meeting and said, this is what we want to do, before they even got into phase one, this stuff would have been hashed out. I'm beside myself. I mean, I own property over there, and I manage property over there, and so who's going to pay for this? you know, okay, it's great that the pipe is going to be pushed all the way through. You can get down into the weeds. Is the city going to require, what, Dig Alert to go out and find out what's on each side of the property? You have gas lines, you've got sewer lines in these side yards. I guess the concern I have, and guarantees, a 2-year guarantee. I mean, a contractor's got to guarantee it. You got a 10-year guarantee for latent defects that aren't discovered within a 10-year period. So is this going to get contracted away by unsuspecting homeowners or property owners because they're basically given an ultimatum? You either sign this or you're not going to have water service. That's a bunch of garbage, and that's exactly where this is heading. And you heard it tonight. This ad hoc committee, you know, is definitely needed, and you need a lot more information before you let these guys pull one permit or go out and try to intimidate or bully absentee owners or whatever, saying that, oh, this has to be done because if you don't get it done within this time period, you're going to be cut off with water, and you're going to be paying. Yeah, we've got to, because we are adding 200 feet. Look, this is their job. This isn't a homeowner job. This is their job. And have him sit here and say that the homeowner is now responsible from the meter to the house is disingenuous. This is their project. I have no say in who their contractor is. Thank God it's not going to be the one here who works, you know, with 20-inch pipe and going to try to handle half-inch pipe or 1-inch pipe. So now they're going to get a real plumber out here to do it. But who's it going to be? How long is that guy going to be around? And so I have to take his guarantee, 2 years for Golden State. It's your job. It's not my job. If this were my job, I'd have my plumber do it, and I know it would get done right if I have to do it. And I'm not so sure that it has to be done. I'd like to. I mean, that's a question for the attorney. Okay, as to just what are the rights of the water company or the PUC? Do they have eminent domain authority to come on? There's no easements. They need permission. Beyond that, it's a trespass. And I mean, I understand what they're trying to do as a homeowner or a property owner. I just want it done right. I don't want a halfway job. I don't want... My water line that I put in when I built my building has lasted for 35 years. No problems. Now, they're going to come in here and put in a pipe, and they're telling me they're going to guarantee it for 2 years. It's laughable. And for this city to have any part of it is just a relinquishing of your duty. This ad hoc committee, you need to get into the weeds, and you need to see what they're going to try to foist on to the public, and don't issue permit 1 until we have that. I have so many questions. I don't have enough time. I mean, we could just sit here and march right through it. Proper sizing, electrical grounds. Put plastic pipe in, your electrical ground is gone. Okay, so now how are they going to? And who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the electrician? Who's going to be the electrical engineer to sign off on every property that the grounding is adequate? Because right now you use the copper line going from your house or to the street. That's your ground, or to the main, the water main. Now they take that out and they put plastic in. You got one long insulator. On single-family homes, every one I've ever seen on a home inspection, 12-foot rod, drive it in the ground. You got a plastic water service. You got to put a 12-foot grounding rod in, or 9-foot, whatever it is. Where's that? Is the city going to call that out? And who pays for that? Is it going to be them, or is it going to put it on the homeowner? City requires a pressure regulator. Who's going to pay for it? Them, or the guy who? I'm not asking for this job. I mean, none of this. This needs to be hammered out before you issue one permit. There needs to be a basic understanding of what is going to be required from the city. Okay, and the scope of the permit process. This is a new service, no different than if I went in and had to replace it tomorrow. I've got to bring my water service up to the current code, whatever that is. And I would expect it to be the same here. And the guarantee should be coming from Golden State. I can foresee this. They're going to dump it onto the contractor. You're going to sign a contract. The contractor is going to be on the hook. And who knows who that guy's going to be? Some company create their corporation, and then it'll be bankrupt within the 2 years.
Thank
All
you,
this
Art.
stuff.
Thank you, Art. All right, back to the council. So any further questions, discussion on this? It's been a rather long and kind of grinding out, so.
I support the idea of the ad hoc. I'm not sure I have the knowledge of what all needs to be done, but I think we've got city staff who issues permits when people come in. You know, some of those homes probably have already been redone because there's properties being redone over there, and they should be brought up to code when they do something like that. I tend to agree. This is new service that needs to be to code. And whatever our requirements are, whether it's fire code, whether it's plumbing code, electrical code, all of that should be included as the requirement. So I would be supportive of an ad hoc committee to try and.
I don't know if we can do that tonight or we have to agendize it, but what I would like to also entertain is the ad hoc to include a couple of the planning commissioners, because they tend to know a lot more about this than I do. I mean, if we really want to do our due diligence and make sure that we have all the experts at the table to make sure that we're turning over every stone, I'd be in favor of something like that, but I'm not sure if we can do that tonight since it's not agendized.
What you're talking about
Well,
it.
creating the ad hoc is who's on it, I don't think.
So, City Attorney, there was a question, I don't know if you heard it from Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Yeah, I think you actually could have a motion to create the ad hoc committee tonight.
That would
just
be-
based
that would
on
be
the
my-
discussion item listing that we have on the agenda.
That would be my, I certainly had expected that, at least have that discussion, so, when I talked with the city manager. And Brett, I apologize, I did cut you off before we went to public comments. I think we have a little bit of information on the permitting and the inspection process, and you were going to talk about that. It doesn't look really good right now. I don't know, can you care to elaborate, or you want to kind of hold it off and?
None. We'll just hold up.
Okay, because, yeah, if inspections were supposed to be done, I mean, from my perspective, and, you know, Golden State and their contractor, if they're paying for service and we're not delivering it by not being there, that is not a good look. So I would encourage you to figure out what happened, what broke down, and why did it happen, or if it did happen, when did it happen, and how did it get bought off by the inspector? Okay, so I encourage you to do that, so.
I mean, I think all of these, if we're gonna come back with a makeup of an ad hoc committee, we'll take all of this into consideration. We can provide additional information as we go forward with the.
Yeah, but I think it'll need to be also presented out here, because there are this, you know, this information that's come to light that we need to understand it as a body here. So besides the ad hoc, so we'll have to figure out a mechanism to report that. Okay, so I think we have the ability to.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to create an ad hoc comprising of 2 city council members and 2 planning commissioners and staff to look at the future of phase 2 and phase 3. I think what we talked about in the non-inspections and stuff, that has nothing to do with the ad hoc. That's just a report back on what happened.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Second by Murphy. Okay. Any further discussion? Do we want to entertain names for the ad hoc, or do we want to hold off until we have the planning commission?
I don't know if, I think we could probably entertain names for council. I'm not sure
Sure,
if we could
exactly.
entertain
That's
for
what I'm
planning
talking about,
commission.
Yeah, I think what we would be able to do is, if you'd like to have a discussion about city council member
Yeah,
appointments
exactly.
tonight,
That's
that's
what I
fine, and then
meant,
we
yeah.
can agendize the planning commission component and have that body
Okay.
make selections and appointments at their meeting.
Okay. So any volunteers? If we can bring it into a motion, or do you want to just vote on it?
I don't have a problem serving on it. The concern is I don't have the knowledge, so I'm going to have to rely heavily on staff in terms of code situations. And my original intention is that we develop some type of policy that we affect going forward, that we're not just simply, our first issue is the Golden State issue, but we need to have something in place that can affect any of these types of things in the future.
And I don't think, honestly, Dean, you need to be an expert in this, but you are a property owner, you're also a landlord, And I think you'd be able to bring questions as a landlord about how this is going to affect me. I don't live on the property. I think these are just layman's questions and concerns about how is this going to affect me? What's the cost?
Okay.
Who's the responsible party?
I'll be happy to volunteer if nobody else wants to. So can we make the motion?
Yep, nominate Councilmember Gross and Mayor Kusamoto to serve as part of the ad hoc for the city council representatives.
Second. Murphy seconded. Thank you, Mark. Okay, motion second with ad hoc to be comprised of Gross and myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can we ask also, as part of their punch list, are they going to address?
Yes, they said that. I'm sorry, who?
Oh,
Yeah.
the Golden State to
No,
address
this
these?
is
Staff's gonna
staff.
look into
Staff will do it, okay.
Yeah, staff needs to look into that. Okay. Murphy, Mayor Pro Tem?
Can I ask you an overall question? Just on the big picture, what went wrong? I mean, you've already obviously changed contractors, so they didn't work out. Were they new contractors? Was there somebody you'd worked with before?
Actually, I brought Beth McDonough. She's our director of capital programs, and Long Tai, our project engineer. They're much more familiar with the contractors that we work with. I don't know if it was just the work crew that was assigned to this one. Again, it was a challenging project to begin with. We do these projects, I wouldn't say fairly regularly, but we have some. We have one in the works in Stanton right now, but they're single-family residential homes, and the means are in backyards. So they're obviously much less accessible than the alleyway main. You know, in hindsight, again, I think better coordination, better communication with both the city staff and the community at large on this project would have gone a much longer. I mean, would have gone much better in the community. This is a black eye, as I said, for Golden State Water Company, and especially because the city has such a bad taste in their mouth about this project. So the planning is it's done with the GRC process. It's perhaps they don't look at enough, we don't look at enough details in that project. This one is significantly more challenging with all of the different properties that we're looking at. But as to the contractor themselves, we've done, I mean, in my history in water, 28 years, Valverde is a contractor that's known in the business. I'm not certain, again, what went south on this,
Okay.
but didn't know if you had any.
If I may, though, maybe it would not be appropriate to answer in detail on that question. I would
I'm
just
sorry,
suggest
yeah.
that.
That's
So,
true.
I mean, it's a question, but I would not want that as part of this public discussion. Maybe when we
Thank
take a recess, you might want to have a discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming
Okay.
tonight.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have consent calendar left, I think that's left. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to just plow through, council?
Plow through.
Plow through, okay, let's go. Okay.
Camel you.
On item 10, consent calendar items that may be acted upon in one motion unless a council member wishes separate action. Is there anything that we wish to pull?
Yes. I'd like to pull item E and item Q.
Okay, pulling item Q. Anything else? Is there a motion for the balance?
So moved.
Okay, Murphy, move.
Second.
Second, Churko. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. Okay, do you need a staff report on E, Dean?
No,
or-
I don't think so. I think my concerns, and I believe somebody else brought it up as well because it was part of the city manager's report. My concern is the Joint Forces Training Base. The person that was in charge over there is no longer in charge. A new person is coming in. We were led to believe, I think, that we had a 2-year agreement going into 2019, and things got changed, and our rates got changed. And quite frankly, I just don't have the confidence or trust at this particular point with the military. And my concern is putting this agreement out. I think we should put a timetable on it that the city staff can use back against JFTB. And that is, if we don't have a finalized agreement, I believe September 1st was the time frame that I felt was appropriate, considering the races in November. That we look seriously at whether or not we pull the plug. There's no reason to be going through these discussions every single year. The JAG is gone. The agreement that was produced by Colonel Bond was acceptable. Should have been mandated this year. We should have been stronger, I think, from the aspect of legal staff, to go back to them and challenge, say, look, we've got a bona fide agreement that's here for 2 years, and we shouldn't be being forced to pay additional fees. I'd hate to see us get into this agreement on race management and have ourselves stuck with a bill if we can't force the base to perform. And I think if we go back to the base at this particular stage, and if necessary, move it up the chain, we need an agreement in place that's acceptable to the city by September 1st, or we can't do the race. You can't properly promote it. We saw that happen. That was part of the issue for not having as many people participating. And, you know, I'd like staff's input as well, but I think we need to put something in place that mandates the base has got to perform.
But, okay, so if I understand it, so this is a contract with Run Racing, correct?
Yes.
And nothing to do with the base itself, so you're looking to put some kind of a suspense date on this so that if we cannot reach an agreement, then we cancel the contract or terminate the contract with Run Racing, which we have that right to do almost any time we want, right?
Right.
Yes.
So it's just adding a milestone deadline. Is that kind of what you're asking?
I think it is a milestone that we can use city-wise with the base and the base management.
But I think, I would think, though, the risk you run is with Run Racing themselves. If they say, well, if there's not a sure thing, then they might go look to provide the services somewhere else, and then you lose the ability to conduct that. So I think, yeah, from my perspective, if there's the escape clause available, I don't know. I understand what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure that does what you want it to do in terms of a hammer.
I mean, what we may want to do is give notice to the base, to JFTB, and Ron can weigh in on the time period on this, but having a concrete, solid, signed MOU in enough time to actually plan and prepare and advertise for the race on the base.
Which has nothing to do with Run Racing.
Have to do with, the only thing it has to do with this, I mean, I think we have a good protection on the termination clause that's in this agreement, but that Councilmember Gross's comments goes to the notification to the base about a timing of completion.
We met with the base about a couple weeks ago, and we notified them that we'd like something in place by the end of June for Race on the Base, because we actually open up registration in June. So they're very aware of that timetable that we set approximately 2 weeks ago.
Maybe we just move to approve this and then direct staff to send a letter to the new commander over there, to the colonel, and let them know that because of issues that have happened in the past, we have to get this resolved by June 1st. Which is
June 1st is only about a couple weeks away.
Yeah,
I would say
I agree.
give them a little bit more, maybe.
Whatever you want to
Yeah.
do staff-wise, but I think we need to serve notice on the base to make sure that they understand.
Okay. You want to make a motion, Dean?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
The item on the warrants.
Okay. So with respect to E, correct? Move E and Hasselbrick second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, passes 5-0. The other one is Q. Did you need our staff report on that too, Dean?
You know, I don't think so. I think I can explain my concerns. This is a request to buy 8 mobile data computers. And we're not the only city buying these. Every city in the county, plus the county, is buying them. And my question, I guess, really comes back is, they're probably using something similar. I know La Palma went with a different non-Motorola thing, I believe, when they did their radios for their 800 megahertz. Why are we doing a separate bid for the same items that everybody else is? Why aren't we piggybacking on an order that somebody else has placed? The Orange County Sheriff's probably ordered 1,000 of these things. Why can't we piggyback on that order rather than having to bid it out ourselves? Is there something unique to ours? Because if it's unique to ours, it's going to be unique to Seal Beach and unique to Cypress, because we're all on the same system. If nothing else, we should be in the bid with Cypress and Seal Beach.
Well, I will let Captain Carr respond to that because he did the staff report. I can tell you that we've over the last 2 years have been piloting and looking at different platforms for durability, how well they interconnect with our system. We've actually looked at piggybacking off of some other bids, but there's a requirement that they have to be within a certain amount of time from the time of purchase, and looking at some of those bids and whether or not we could. And I know that that after going through a series of different testing of different products, this was the product that was most favored, and for a number of reasons. But like I said, I'll go ahead and let Captain Carr give you specifics as to why we're choosing this and what the process was.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief, and Mayor and council members. We did start this about 18 months ago, where we checked out several platforms, including the laptops that are currently used by Seal Beach and the laptops being used by Cypress. We chose to go with this model because of its usability, functionality for us. The ease of being able to bring it out of the car and use it for multi-purposes. We're using this to scan vehicles and incorporate the information immediately into the system. It really just enhances our officers' ability to collect information a little bit easier, as well as complete reports a little bit easier out in the field without having to buy all the peripherals. So, right now the laptops have limited functionality that the mobile, this tablet actually has more capability than those laptops, such as scanning IDs. I don't have to buy mag stripe readers. I don't have to buy thumbprint readers. We can use it to take pictures. So it just works better, works easier, and our officers like it. And its price point was much nicer.
What's the comparison on the price versus what Seal Beach spent and what Cypress spent?
Well, neither one of them went with the tablet. So when you're comparing this one, Panasonic makes a similar tablet, but we're saving about $1,200 per tablet by doing so. When you're comparing it to the laptop, it's about the same cost as the laptops that the other two cities spent.
So you're saying that the cost factor is the same, this has more flexibility?
Correct.
Okay. I kind of wonder why they didn't go that way, why they don't see it in the same fashion.
This tablet was actually created after they had gone into their purchase orders. They purchased, both of them purchased over a year ago. This was something that was developed more recently to challenge the Panasonic Toughbook. So through development and just waiting, we found a better product.
Are we going to be spending more for damage because they're coming in and out of the car?
No, these are all ruggedized. It's basically sealed like with an OtterBox, if you would. It's just built on. They'll withstand drop distances, and they'll withstand direct water. So you can submerge them up to like 30 feet before warranty's out. So I mean, we've checked all the government specs on these.
Okay, then I'll move approval.
Second. Gross, Murphy, motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the final item we have is we're going to go back into closed session. City Attorney, if you could take us into closed for the 2 remaining items. Is that correct?
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and reference both items 12A through C, 3 items to be discussed potentially in closed session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.